everybody. Welcome back to another Waterstones virtual event. Today, we are delighted to welcome Sam Copeland to talk to you, who is the author of our current children's book of the month, Alex versus Axel, The Impossible Quests. This is an absolutely hilarious book about two very different boys who get swapped and have to live the other one's life for a while. But you'll hear more about that from Sam in a moment. Sam will be running you through writing, the story, and also answering your questions. I have a lovely list of all of your pre-submitted questions, but if anything comes to mind while Sam is talking, please pop it in the chat box and we will get to as many as we can by the end of the day, end of the session, sorry. As always, the session is being recorded, so don't worry if you miss parts. A recording will be made available to you a few days after the event. And finally, we would love to see any pictures of you enjoying today's session. Just use the hashtag Waterstones virtual events and we will get to see it. You'll hear from me at the end when I come back to do the questions. But for now, Sam, over to you.
Hello. Hopefully everybody can hear me. How are we doing? All good? So there's nearly 4,000 children watching this. So hopefully I don't mess up. Let's see how this goes. And hopefully my dog Bagel doesn't start barking. So I'm going to begin now and I'm going to share. Hopefully this will work. Okay. From beginning. Okay, we're off. We're going. Hello, my name is Sam Copeland, and I am an author of lots of books, some of which you may have heard of. I started off with the Charlie Changes series, all about a young boy who, whenever he's anxious, changes into all sorts of different animals. And then I wrote Uma and the Answer to Absolutely Everything, and Greta and the Ghost Hunters, which is all about a girl who is in a terrible accident, and when she wakes up, she can see ghosts. And then I wrote a couple of books with the amazing author Jenny Pearson. And that brings me to my new book, Alex versus Axel. And the inspiration for this, well, like so many of my books, I went back to my childhood. And I thought about, what did I love? What did I love when I was a kid? With Charlie, I thought, well, I love animals, and I still love animals, and I wanted to write about animals. And then with Greta and the Ghost Hunters, I used to be obsessed with ghosts when I was a child. So I wanted to write about ghosts. Well, when I came to Alex versus Axel, once again, I went back to my childhood, and I thought, well, I love fantasy worlds, and my childhood was populated by Lord of the Rings and Never-Ending Story and Narnia. And you see, fantasy books, they offer an escape from the mundane. They invite us to explore magical lands and encounter extraordinary beings. And beneath the magic lies universal themes: friendship, courage, and the battle between good and evil. And that's why I decided I wanted to write a fantasy book. You see, so many books that I've read have a normal child plucked from a normal life and thrown into a fantasy world. But it was my idea that I thought, what would happen if a normal boy from our world swaps with a sort of ludicrous hero from a fantasy world, and the normal boy has to go on a wild adventure and fighting monsters and what have you, but the fantasy hero has to come into a normal life and do school and maths tests and fight bullies. And that's where the idea for the book came from. But it's not all about heroes, though. There are, of course, baddies. You can see the baddie looming over them there. And there's dragons and there's talking animals, more of which I will come to in a minute. But in the writing of the book, it was the notion of heroism that really interested me, though. So I thought what we would do is see if you guys have what it takes to be a hero. So we're going to do a little battle of the heroes. And it's going to be you versus me. You see, on the right there with the big heavy sword, that's Alex, and on the left, that's Axel. And so my team is going to be Team Axel, which is, you see, he's handsome, he's strong, heroic. That's my team. Your team, Team Alex, weak, pathetic, not quite so handsome. Team Alex, that's going to be your team. So, just to get us warmed up, the first contest we're going to do is, remember I told you about talking animals? Well, a little known fact about me is that I'm very good at doing animal impersonations. So I thought what we would do now is a little animal impersonation contest, just to start us off. And what we'll do is the computer's going to generate 6 completely random animals. And I will go first and do an impersonation. And then the next animal you do. And then I do an impersonation. And then you do an impersonation. Okay? Make sense? Okay. So, the first random animal that I will have to do is a cow. Okay. Here I go. Okay. Pretty good. Pretty good. Yes, you can give me a clap if you want. So that's my first turn. Now it's your turn, and I want everybody in the class to impersonate whichever animal comes up. Okay? So completely random. It is your animal that you have to do is blobfish. Okay, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go. Not so good. Not so good, I'm afraid. Not so good. Okay, the next completely random animal is, for me, the dog. I got the dog. That was lucky for me. That's pretty good. Pretty good. Okay, your turn. Are you ready? The next completely randomly generated for you guys is the aye. Okay, after 5, want to hear it? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go. That was not very good, guys, I'm afraid to say. It's like you don't even know what an aye sounds like. The problem is, what you need to do is you need to sort of you need to get into the mind and the body and the spirit of an animal. So I will show you how to do it with the next animal. Let's see what it is. Who knows what it is? It is the chicken. I get a chicken. Okay, let me show you. Okay. Okay, there. That is how you do an animal impersonation. So I'm going to give you one last chance to do a decent animal impersonation. Okay, so your completely randomly generated animal that you have to do is the naked mole rat. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go. Okay, enough. That was not good, guys, to be honest. And I think Team Axel, my team, clearly won that by a country mile. So let's see if you could do better on the next round. Now, the first thing you need when you're a hero is, obviously, you need magnificent hair. So we're going to have a magnificent hair competition. So can each class nominate one child with magnificent hair? Okay, I'm going to give you 5 seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, you've nominated your magnificent haired pupil, and it is up against me. So I think there is no way that anybody will beat my magnificent hair. So I automatically win that round anyway. Okay, sorry about that. I'm really doing well on the Battle of the Heroes today. So now, usually at this point, I do a sort of physical test, but I can't do that because I'm not in the same room as you. So we're going to go straight to testing your brains. And that's good because a hero, it can't all be sort of brawn and muscle and strength like me. Sometimes, you know, a hero needs to be clever, great intelligence like me. So what we're going to do is we're going to test your brains now. And this is a warm up. Now we're going to do a few anagrams. Just shout out when you get it. 2, 1. See if you got it. Dragon. This one. 2, 1. Did you get it? Magic wand. Next one. And for everybody shouting out live wizard, you're wrong. It's evil wizard. And the final one is... That's very kind of you to say. Sam Copeland is indeed the best. Thank you. Okay, so now we've warmed up those brains of yours, we're going to do a little quiz. We're going to do a quiz. We're going to do a few questions, depending on sort of time. Let's see how time goes. We're doing all right for time, actually. The first question is about space. And the way we're going to do this is you're going to vote, and whichever the way most of you vote for, that will be your answer. Okay, so we're off to space for the first question, and the question is this: if you had a car, except it was a perfectly normal car, except it could drive straight up into the sky, how long? And if you drove that car at about 60 miles an hour straight up into the sky, and that's a bit less than on the motorway, you do 70, so a bit less than you do on the motorway. How long would it take you to drive to space? Would it take you A, 1 hour, or B, 3 days? So hands up for 1 hour, hands up for 3 days. If you voted 3 days, you voted incorrectly. Yes, it is actually 1 hour because space is actually not very far away at all. Depending on how you measure it, it's about 60 to 100 miles. So we're actually a lot closer to space than we are to France. It's probably a good thing, really. Okay. Oh, and the reason we need all those rockets blasting off is to battle gravity, and gravity is an extraordinary force. It's incredibly weak and it's incredibly strong. It's so weak that when I lift up this book, I'm battling the gravity of the whole of planet Earth. And at the same time, it's so strong that it can move whole oceans and create tides. It's so strong, it could keep moons and planets dancing around the sun and dancing around each other in orbit. It's so strong, it can travel infinitely across the universe. Crazy thing, gravity. Okay, on to the next question. See how you do on this one. This is about the pearlfish, the clever little pearlfish. Where does the pearlfish live? Does it live A, happily swimming about in the coral reef? Or does it live B, up the butt of a sea cucumber? Hands up for A, happily swimming about in the coral reef? Hands up for B, up the bum of a sea cucumber. Those who voted B, up the bum of a sea cucumber, well, you're weird, but you are correct. And there it is. Now, the first question we have to ask is, why would you live up the bum of a sea cucumber? And there's a couple of good reasons for this. Firstly, the sea cucumber is very toxic to many fish, but not to the clever pearlfish. And also, up the bum of a sea cucumber is, well, it's like a small cave. And small caves are very safe places for small fish because big fish can't get them and eat them. So it's actually a very great hiding place for pearlfish. And up to 20 pearlfish can live up the bum of one sea cucumber. But what we don't know is why the sea cucumber is happy to have 20 pearlfish living up its bum. Nobody knows. Okay, on to the next question. It's about selfies. It's not about this selfie, but it is about selfies. And the question is, what year was the first ever selfie taken? Was it A, 1839, or B, 1879? Tricky on this one. Hands up for A, 1839. Hands up for B, 1879. Those who voted 1839 are correct. And there it is. This is the first ever selfie that was taken. It was taken by a dude called Robert Cornelius. And he woke up one summer's morning and he looked in the mirror and thought, do you know what? Look at my hair. My hair is looking awesome. I'm going to take a photo of myself. And the extraordinary thing is that it took people 13 years to think of doing a selfie because the first ever photo that was taken in 1826, 13 years earlier. And here it is. This is it, the first ever photo that was taken. And we're nearly at the 200th anniversary of this first ever photo that was taken. Okay, well done. On to the next question. And it's about cheese. And it's about a particular type of cheese called Casu Marzu cheese. And Casu Marzu cheese is a cheese which is eaten in Sardinia in Italy. And what does it have in it? Does it have A, dead snails, or B, live maggots? The answer is live maggots. And there they are, eating the cheese. And then the Sardinians love to eat the creamy, cheesy maggots. And I've heard if you do well on this quiz, then you're going to be having Casu Marzu cheese for your school dinner at lunch. Very exciting. Okay. And now the last question. We're going back to space because I could talk about space forever. I love space. And this is an extraordinary thing. Well, it's an artist impression of something extraordinary called a neutron star. And a neutron star is a star that it's not exploding, it's imploding. Now, if you were to travel to a neutron star, not easy because very far away, and you were super strong and you stuck a teaspoon into the neutron star and you lifted the teaspoon of neutron star up, how much would a teaspoon of neutron star weigh? Would it weigh, A, remember I said there was 4,000 children on this Zoom, would it weigh as much as every single child on this Zoom? Or would it weigh B, as much as every single person on the planet? A or B? What's it going to be? Hands up for A, as much as every child on this Zoom. Hands up for B, every person on the planet. Hands down. Okay. I'm afraid to say that sometimes, sometimes heroes can be villains. And I'm afraid I've been a little bit villainous there because both answers were wrong. I cheated. Now, the actual answer is if you stuck a teaspoon and lifted that teaspoon of neutron star, that teaspoon of neutron star would weigh 3 times as much as every single person on the planet. Another way of looking at it is it would weigh about the same as Mount Everest. And the reason for that is, remember I told you that the star is imploding. Well, because it's imploding, everything's getting really, really squashed together. And when things get squashed together, they become dense. When things become dense, they become heavy. And this is so squashed together, so squashed, so dense, so heavy. 1 teaspoon, the same as Mount Everest. It's almost unimaginable. Okay, guys, hopefully you did well on that quiz. To be honest, I'm sure you didn't do as well as me. So I think, therefore, we just have to assume that I've won the Battle of the Heroes. I think that's so. I think you should all give me a big round of applause. Big clap. Thank you. Oh, thank you. You're so kind. Thank you. So, we've talked a bit about heroes. I'm going to be serious for a minute now. We've talked a bit about heroes, but we have to ask, what really makes a hero? Well, heroes they're always ordinary people. They're not people running around in capes or people who have superpowers. Now, let me show you this next photo. This is me on the right wearing a pretty sweet zip-up tracky top. And that's my dad next to me. And he taught me how to be brave in the most terrible time. And that's why he is my hero. And a few years ago, my daughter was knocked over by a car. She's fine now, but her life was saved by ambulance men and nurses and doctors, and they're my heroes too. You see, heroes are all around us, and sometimes we don't even notice. You see, the dragons I write about in my books, they're not real. They are what's called metaphors, and they're representations of the many battles that I faced as a child. See, I had lots of very serious problems when I was a child, and some of these you might be facing right now, because we all have battles in life. It might be bullies, it might be your parents getting divorced, it might be you're really poor, or it might be there's illness in your family, or it might be grief. There's so many problems. And these are the real monsters that we all have to fight. And this is where you can show bravery. This is where you can show kindness. And that is how you can become a real hero. Okay, guys, I'm going to read a little bit from actually, I'm going to read 2 little bits from the book now. I'm going to read the prologue right at the beginning, and then I'm going to read a few pages forward where Alex and Axel swap places for the first time. It won't take me too long to read, up to somewhere between 5 to 7 minutes, something like that. And I do think this book is funny, but just to say, the 2 bits I'm reading you aren't very funny at all. So, but that's just how it goes. Okay. The story had to end. The old man stilled his trembling hands and dipped his quill in the pot of ink, his heart pounding as hard as the fists on the front door. A flash of lightning lit the room as he scribbled feverishly on the page before him, rain lashing the study window. With a crack it burst open, wind whipping at his white beard and what little wispy hair remained on his head. The candles on his desk sputtered and died. They hadn't been slowed down by the storm that the old man had written into their way, and now time had almost run out. He had to finish before they took the book from him, and an endless emptiness swallowed everything. The door split with a crack of wood. Faster he wrote, the ink smudging as his hand raced across the page. The exchange had to be made. A soul for a soul. One boy in place of another. A last hope from another world. The door splintered open, followed by the thunder of footsteps on the stairs. Then they were in the room. One of the intruders pressed a knife against the old man's neck and whispered in his ear, "Put the quill down." "You're too late, Tarka Screed," the old man said. "I think not. We have you, we have the book, we have everything we need. So put it down, narrator," repeated Screed, her voice as cold as the blade she was holding. "Now." The tip of the knife pressed harder against the old man's throat. He gently set the quill down on his desk, his face crinkling into a soft smile of relief. Just in time, the last full stop had been placed. He had finished. One last tale before the end of the world. And now I'm going to skip forward a few pages. As I said, this is where Alex and Axel swap places for the first time. It started with a crackling, as if the whole room was suddenly filled with static. Alex shook his head and rubbed his eyes. Was this a migraine? But no, by the look on Sienna's face, she could feel it as well. "What's that?" she asked. "I don't know," Alex replied, completely forgetting he was standing there in only his underpants. The crackling got louder. Alex had the strange feeling his brain or the world was glitching. Then a silent flash and a thumping shockwave rippled through the room, knocking Alex and Sienna backwards. For a heart-pounding moment, Alex thought there'd been an explosion. He rubbed his eyes and blinked. It was no explosion. Hovering in the middle of his bedroom was a shimmering, iridescent circle, a ring of rippling liquid colours, taller than he was. Alex's knees went to jelly, his mind not accepting what he was seeing. He stared at the ring, open-mouthed. Sienna stammered, but no noise came out. Then the colours parted to reveal a hole. No, not a hole, it was a doorway. And on the other side, there was a somebody who was staring back at Alex as open-mouthed as he was. A somebody who looked very much like Alex, the same wavy blonde hair and thick eyebrows, and yet slightly different. The other boy was wearing more clothes for a start, but aside from that, he looked stronger somehow, more confident. And before Alex had any more time to consider what was going on, he felt a great force pulling him towards the doorway, as if the whole world was being drawn into it like water down a plug hole. Sienna grabbed hold of a wardrobe with a scream of panic. Alex staggered forward and slipped to the floor. Just in time, he clutched onto his headboard. The force became stronger, though, and his legs left the ground. "Sienna!" he screamed. "It's pulling me in!" Sienna stretched out an arm to grab him, but it was too late. His hands slipped and he flew through the air, through the liquid ring of light towards the other boy. They each stared into the other's eyes, panic mirroring panic. And then, as easy as a hand through smoke, they passed through one another. On Alex flew into a tunnel of light, stretching through the universe, inside time itself, and out the other side. And everything changed. Okay, guys. Now, I think maybe I'll turn off screen sharing so you can see me full screen and we can jump to questions. What do we think about that? Let's just try this. There we go. Okay, I'm hoping that we have some questions.
Hello.
Hello.
I just want to congratulate you on winning your battle. I know it was very hard.
Thank you. I mean, it wasn't very hard, to be honest. They were useless. I was great.
You were the best.
I
Excellent.
was the best hero on the day.
So like I said before, I have pre-submitted questions, but please, I can already see some questions popping in the Q&A. So the first question we have from a homeschool in Liverpool asks, what inspired you to be an author?
I mean, the money, basically. But aside from that, I had children. I had children that were about sort of between 7 and 10 at the time, and I was reading. I was reading books to them, and I thought, you know what? I'd love to try doing this. I'd love to write books which they enjoyed, and then. Uh, as I said, I had lots of problems when I was a child, and I felt very alone with those problems, and I was embarrassed by all those problems. So I thought I would love to include books which showed a lot of these problems and showed children that they weren't alone with their problems. So that's really what inspired me.
Oh, lovely. We have a question from Ash Class at Chase Lane Primary School in Harwich, and they ask any tips you could give to aspiring writers.
Well, I mean, the most obvious tip, and this goes for so many things, it's just reading. Reading is so important. I know obviously I'm an author, I'm going to say that, but it's incredibly important for almost everything you want to do in your life. And if you want to be an author, you need to read. And then when you read, you need to sort of look at what the author is doing. Sort of see, okay, if this is a funny book, how is the author making it funny? If this is a scary book, how is this author making this scary? And learn the tricks on what they do.
I think that's a very, very good tip for sure. We have a question in the chat also from Car Junior School, Class 5M, who asks, is the old man in the prologue okay?
Hmm. Um, I mean, I would say that you've got to read the book really to find
Yeah,
out.
that's true.
But I will give you a spoiler that he's okay.
Phew, I think we were all worried there. So another question from Car Junior School Class 5M. They asked, have you always wanted to write books with a humorous element to them?
Oh, great question. Absolutely yes. Completely and utterly yes. For me, humor is funniness is one of the great forms of communication, and making people laugh is it's a beautiful thing to do. And I often don't really understand communication without funniness, without jokes, without humor. So, and I think personally, I think the greatest books are the funny books because we have to do everything else. We have to do the emotion. We have to do the plot. We have to do everything that all the other books do. And we have to make jokes as well. So I would have no interest in writing a book that didn't have funny jokes in. No interest. Great question.
Excellent. To be honest, I don't like reading books without funny jokes in them. So, we have a question from Corbin at the Nettlestone Primary School on the Isle of Wight, who asks, as a child, who was your favourite author?
As a child, my favorite author was, I think we have to say it was Roald Dahl, really.
Mm.
Roald Dahl, the sort of, I mean, anybody who can write The Twits and Charlie and the Chocolate Factory and The Witches and Matilda, and I could go on. He really was the sort of the king of of funny books, and really has been sort of unmatched until I came along. That was a joke. That was a joke.
Knock him off his throne.
Um, no, for me it was that. But there were so many books. My childhood was just populated by books, whether it was The Lion, Witch, and the Wardrobe, and then there was books which sort of have gone, the dreaded gone out of print. There was a book called The Black Horn that I loved when I was a youngster, and no longer available. So books were very important to me.
Definitely. We're getting a lot of questions coming in about the illustrations in Alex versus Axel. I wondered if you could talk a little bit more about the wonderful illustrations.
Yes, I mean, I am pretty much the worst artist in the world. And I'm not even exaggerating there. So it's absolutely essential that somebody comes along with talent. And I think the talent on show for this book, it's an artist called Dottie Sutton, and I think she's an absolute genius. And this is her first book that she's illustrated, and I think she's absolutely smashed it out of the park. I think the illustrations are completely amazing. And thank goodness for illustrators. But it just shows you can't do everything. Some things you're good at. I'm not bad at writing. I'm terrible at art. I'm not bad at football. Some things I'm good at, some things are useless. We're all different.
Definitely. A question from Year 5 Charter Academy. If you could swap bodies or places with anyone or anything, who or what would it be?
Oh my goodness me. What a great question. I've never been asked that. And I've got a really boring answer. I can't believe I'm going to say this boring answer, but I don't want to swap bodies with anybody. I'm really, really happy with who I am and where I am in life. And I think that's one of the great battles in life, really, is to become so happy with who you are that you wouldn't want to swap with anybody. So I think I'll stay in my own body.
Stay where you are.
I'll stay where
I
I
think
am.
that's fair enough.
Yeah.
We've clearly got a lot of Charlie changes into a chicken fans
Right.
watching, which is
Right.
excellent. So one question I saw, which is this question from Acklam Wynn Primary. Why did you write Charlie changes into a chicken? As you can see, we are very invested in the Charlie changes into a chicken books.
Why did I write them?
Why did you write it?
Why did I write it? Um, um, I mean, that was the first book I wrote, really, and it was almost like I didn't choose to start writing. It was almost like I was hit on the back of the head by I don't know, a thunderbolt or something, and I just suddenly started writing. So it was almost like I didn't get a choice on why I started writing the book. But then once I started, then I started realizing what it is I wanted to talk about. And with Charlie, I knew I wanted to talk about anxiety, because that was something I had as a kid, but wasn't even known as that in those days. It was a long time ago, and I knew I wanted to write about animals. And so I just came up with this idea about what happens if a boy keeps changing into lots of different animals, and then I made it funny, and then here I am.
Excellent. A lot of questions as well about the writing process specifically. So a lot of people want to know how long it took to write this book in specific.
Well, usually if I get asked this question, usually I go around the audience and get them to guess how long it takes me to write a book. And the guesses are always between like 2 hours and 4 years. And that's not an exaggeration when I get those guesses, but it's somewhere in the middle. It takes me I think Alex vs. Axel took me about 8 months to write.
Would you say that's pretty standard for a draft, or
I mean, for
I guess
me,
how long
yeah,
is a piece of
for
string?
me, for me, 6 months to 8 months. That's how
Yeah.
long it takes me, yeah.
Another question from Nettlestone Primary School, this time from Ted, who asks, how do you continuously write your books without stopping, and how do you keep your ideas coming?
I mean, great question. I mean, it's basically how do you keep concentrating? And First of all, you need to get rid of distractions. You can't concentrate with your phone next to you. You just can't. And where to get the ideas? sometimes the ideas are very difficult to come by, and sometimes the jokes are so difficult to come by. Sometimes I think I know a joke should go here, but I can't think what it is. And then often the ideas will come to me when I'm in bed. I'm trying to get to sleep, and then bang, my brain is when I relax. That's when my brain starts going. I just saw a question there. Would I like to act in uh, in a movie of my books? And yes, I would, but as long as I could be a baddie, I think I'd be a great baddie.
Yeah, who would be your dream cast for Alex versus Axel?
It's a bit difficult because Alex versus Axel, they're
Both,
both
yeah,
children.
yeah.
So, but I would like to play the main baddie, Felonious
Okay, well, there
Tyrant.
we go. I think we can arrange that pretty easily.
Okay.
We just have time for a few more questions. So someone asks, who is your favorite author writing children's books right now?
Okay. I mean, there's so many. There's so many great authors. I am going to mention two authors who are sort of very close to my heart, which is A.F. Steadman, who does the Skandar series. I think they're absolutely brilliant. And then I think the best children's writer in the country, I think, is an author called Jenny Pearson, who written loads of books, and every single one of them is utterly brilliant. I think she's the best writer in the country. But then there's loads of other great writers like Phil Earle and Catherine Rundell, and you know, I like a lot of the graphic novels that are out at the moment. I think Wimpy Kid is actually brilliant. I think Bunny and Monkey is great, and I think, you know, probably too young for you guys, but I think Julia Donaldson is a truly great writer.
Like the queen of children's books, you could say, Julia
Yeah,
Donaldson. Um, the Chase Lane Elm class asks, would you ever consider writing stories for adults as well as children?
no, no,
Easy
I've
answer.
no interest in doing that. And people ask me that, and I just have no interest. I mean, maybe one day I might come up with an idea that I could, but really, I don't. No interest.
Yeah, I think, I mean, for me as well, I've just never stopped reading kids' books. I never
Yeah,
really left the children's section because I think they are
yeah,
the best ones.
yeah.
We have time for one more question. So we've had this from a few people. What are you working on now?
What am I working on now? Well, I've just finished the sequel to Alex versus Axel. But it's only the first draft. So I usually have to do about 7 or 8 drafts of the whole book. So I've finished the first draft of that, but I know I've got a big edit coming on that. Because I
Excellent.
completely forgot everything that happened in the first book. I completely forgot about, and I read the second book, and then a child reminded me about a really significant twist at the end of book
Oh
one, and I was like, "Do you know what? I completely forgot about that in writing the second book." So my editor's got a big job to do there.
no. Well, I guess better to find out now than when the book is out and in
Oh, hang on
print.
a second. Can I just show you
Yeah,
who Fetlock? There's a dog called Fetlock. Can I just show you who it's based on?
please do.
1 second. Yeah.
Oh,
This is the real
oh,
life Fetlock.
oh, what a cute face. Oh my goodness.
There you go.
Oh, well, that is an absolutely adorable way to end our session. I think it might be nap time for someone.
Okay, yeah.
Thank you so much, Sam, for such a fun morning. And thank you
Okay.
to everyone watching for submitting all your wonderful questions. We'd love to see pictures of you enjoying it, so please pop them online with the hashtag Waterstones virtual events. And Alex versus Axel can be found in all good Waterstones around the country with some absolutely gorgeous blue sprayed edges at the moment.
Brilliant. Okay.
Have a
Thank
lovely day,
you guys.
everyone.
Bye
Bye.
bye.